It is summer, in the era of the Judges, sometime around the 12th century BC. The largely unopposed Midianite army has been ravaging the land of Israel for the last 7 years. But now, after a long 7 years of severe oppression, the Lord has decided to deliver his people. A coalition of Israelites, led by Gideon of Ophrah of the Abiezrites, stands at the spring of Harod looking down at the valley of Jezreel and the Midianite army encamped there, ready to trust God to take on an army many times their size to liberate the region. His famous, against the odds battle against their vast army is about to begin. Just 40 years after Sisera was killed by Jael the Kenite, Israel once more did evil in the sight of the Lord, who gave them into the hand of Midian. Insatiably, the Midianites, Amalekites, and other Easterners have since devoured crops as far as Gaza, laying waste to the land like locusts whenever the land produced. And so the Israelites were afflicted, and called out to the Lord for help, and the Lord answered. The angel of the Lord appeared to a man named Gideon and commissioned him to save Israel. Gideon, the son of Joash the Abiezrite, lived in Ophrah and was beating wheat while hiding in a wine press. He laments the situation Israel is in and responds that his clan is the weakest in Manasseh and that he is the least in his father's house. Gideon eventually concedes to the angel's request, but not before asking the angel for a sign, of which he is given, and builds an altar to the Lord at Ophrah called "The Lord is Peace." Gideon is commanded a task by the Lord. Moving at night due to fear of the townspeople, Gideon takes some of his servants with him and breaks down his father's idols of Baal and Asherah in his hometown of Ophrah. He builds an altar to God in its place and there offers a bull from his father's herd as a burnt offering. This earns the village's ire in the morning, but his father Joash defends him. Gideon thus receives the honorary name of Jerubbaal, meaning "let Baal contend." Soon after, the Midianites, Amalekites, and other Easterners joined forces and crossed the Jordan to once again raid and lay waste to the land of Israel. They went up to the valley of Jezreel and set up camp there by Mount Moreh with a force of about 135,000 men. Notably, with them were princes named Oreb and Zeb, as well as King Zebah and King Zalmunna. The Spirit of the Lord clothed Gideon, and he called to arms the Abiezrites, who, despite their previous contention with the Ophrah idols, answer his call. He also sends out messengers throughout his tribe of Manasseh, and to the tribes of the north of Asher, Zebulun, and Naphtali. Interestingly, the tribe of Issachar is not mentioned, despite their land being primarily in this Jezreel valley. 32,000 men mobilized and gathered to Gideon. After once again asking for signs from God to show that he is with him, Gideon and all the people went early in the morning and made camp next to the spring of Harod, south of the Midianite camp. The Lord says that the Israelite army is too large, and that lest they boast their own power in the upcoming fight, he will decrease its size. The Lord proclaims that whoever is fearful, as shown in Levitical law, should not fight and go home. 22,000 of the 32,000 leave. Still, the army is too large. Bringing people down to the water, everyone takes a drink. Those that drink the water in a certain way are to leave and go home. This decreases the army to 300 men. The rest Gideon sends to their tent. That night, Gideon, feeling distraught at the odds against him, seeks further assurance from God. He takes up God's offer to go down to the camp. He goes with his servant and hears a Midianite interpret the dream of his comrade. The interpretation describes God giving the Midianites into Gideon's hands. He is strengthened and worships. Returning to his camp, he divides his men into 3 companies. Each person has a trumpet and an empty jar with a torch inside it. He instructs them to do as he does when they get to the outskirts of the enemy camp. They arrive at the middle watch, probably a little bit before midnight. They proceed to get into position surrounding the camp. With the trumpets in their right hands and in their left hands the torches, they smash the jars that were over the torches and blow their horns. The Midianites instantly begin to panic and scatter. They start cutting each other down, the Lord setting comrade against comrade. The disorganized and panicked Eastern army flees from their camp in the dark hours of the morning, without time to pack up. Gideon, with the Lord having put the Midianites in his hand, strikes an overwhelming victory for Israel and a devastating blow to the Midianite forces, with perhaps upwards of 100,000 Midianites laying dead. But this is not the end of the story. The Midianites' long and perilous route back to the Transjordan is only beginning. Gideon is in hot pursuit, and letting the Midianites get away with Zeba and Zalmunna alive is the last thing on his mind.